Hello, it's Chris at Garage Times. If you're returning, thanks for coming back to the channel. And if you're new, thanks for checking it out. There may be videos online about this. Everybody does it differently. I elected to do a video on it. Partially because the lower control arm, A-arm replacement with the ball joint that's already like pre-installed. And these A-arms that I purchased from Detroit Axle, not sponsored by them, but that's where I got them. Unfortunately, I heard that they're going out of business, which is terrible to hear. So, yeah. So I'm gonna take the old ones, the old A-arm, lower control arm, and I'm gonna drill out those ball joint rivets that they got in there, but that'll probably be in another video. This is just going to be the replacement of the new lower control arm, A-arm with the pre-installed ball joint. So here we go. 22 millimeter for the lug nuts. And you gotta love it because these aluminum covers that are on the lug nuts, the coating or whatever, it like splits, rust gets behind it, and then it locks your ends up expanding inside the socket. When they stick like that, sometimes I just run them back in and then throw it in reverse just to kind of get it to loosen up. I'll run it back in there. I'm gonna keep getting these off, and just to save some time here, I'll pause it. Finally got all those off, and then a lot of times these rims will kind of stick. I usually put white lithium grease like on the rim reverse side of this or on the hat section of the rotor, but not on the disc braking surface. I am going to stop here and just raise the vehicle up more and get a better view of everything. Here's the back side of that wheel, and this here's your steering knuckle. This is the A-arm with that pre-installed ball joint that we're gonna replace. There is a castellated nut up here, and I'm gonna take that off, but I'm gonna have to kind of work that, it's called a cotter pin, I believe. Locking pin, cotter pin, and just kind of get that up and out. Get myself a pick, and then also a pair of side cutters, and get that out of there. So on the other side, it's kind of like the head of the cotter pin is kind of buried into this castle nut to where you don't really have a good, way of getting like a pick in there and looping it in there, or even getting some side cutters on it because there's nothing to grab. It's like pushed in all the way. So I'm gonna try to use this 18 millimeter and just kind of work it back and forth, either break that a little bit, and then maybe I can loosen that and then use a pick here, if you can see that, and get that pick in there into that head and try to pop her out and just keep working that castle nut back and forth with that 18 millimeter. I'll keep working on that and see what happens. So I did just work that back and forth, that 18 millimeter wrench, and I'm gonna see, it did the head on the other side busted off, so I'm gonna try to just pop these out. Get one out there. See if it'll pull out. So that's pretty rusty, corroded pretty bad. Sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. Maybe just spin her out, try to get as much of that out of there as you can. I'm gonna elect to just spin this off. That cotter pin's kind of crumbling and falling apart. And if I need to get a new castellated nut, you know, if it were to damage the threads, you know, that is definitely what I'll do. But I suspect, I'm hoping that it'll be good to go. They don't give you a lot of room to work here either. So I'm gonna keep taking that off, and I'll be back. Well, I'm back with you here. I had just elected to spin that up and go over top of it and didn't even realize that. So I wouldn't sweat it if you get these A-arms like I got. They come with new castellated nuts. Kind of just I forgot that they were on there. So no sweat there. And you can't get that castellated nut all the way off. I mean, it's nice and loose here, but your drive axle's in the way there. CV axle. Gonna try to use a pickle fork here to separate the ball joint from the steering knuckle. Got a tear there. So I'm gonna get the camera set up for that. So I got that pickle fork set up and I'm gonna try to do some separation here. Down pressure and try that again. Oh, there you go. So that's got good separation there. Gonna work on this side next. 18 millimeter wrench, 15 millimeter socket on the bottom. Gonna have to get something with some more power. All right, back with you. Got a bigger impact. See if we can get these off. I want my. So really, the dilemma here is being you know, not having somebody to record for you, move around, and then trying not to cover everything while you're doing it. So. Yeah, just use that 18 millimeter, whatever you got. This is like a box end wrench I'm using to get up top on top of them bolts. I'm gonna have to reposition. And the other nut ended up falling, but there's two nuts that are up here. Two bolts that go through and then two nuts are held on by that. Get yourself a 21 millimeter box end wrench, 21 millimeter socket, and which I might end up having to gonna have to move the camera. It's too close. Looks like that should work. Let's try her again here. That shorter socket's just a little too short, and then that all those threads sticking through wasn't gonna work. So there we go. Lost the light and the camera. Sorry about that. Back with you here. That bolt's still in there, so just kind of tap her out. Might have to use yourself a punch. Let's keep trying to drive her out. So I kind of drove that pin in too far. Not a huge deal. Get yourself a pry bar and something else to kind of tap her with, or in all honesty, just get that pry bar under there like that. Should be able to wiggle that out the other side. Now, all the bolts are out. Make yourself some room. You should be able to kind of pry this loose. Before you do that, I guess you could try to pull down this A-arm all the way, so you get your ball joint separated, you know, because we separated earlier, but just pull it down so it's out of the way. Pull it down so it's like out of the hole, and then probably get yourself a pry bar in here and just kind of gently, just be gentle. And just keep spinning it like that. Out she goes. And if you hadn't seen my unpacking video, I got a couple of these A-arms from Detroit Axle, pre-installed ball joints, new castellated nuts. They come with a nice, like, hard plastic cover, so you don't damage that in shipping, I suppose. But overall, very nice looking, new complete piece. Best part about it is the ball joints are already pre-installed. I am going to do a video on drilling out the old ones just to see how that goes. I might just leave that cover on during the installation just so I don't nick the boot. Got to be careful, but you never know. So we're ready for the new one. Actually, that plastic fell off, so I'm just going to install it without it. And these came actually with these, the nut on this side was all loose, this nut here. So I kind of snugged it up a little bit, not too bad, just so it'll move a little bit in this while I'm trying to assemble it. Maybe they leave it loose so you can install it and tighten it later. Get yourself a little pry bar action there. And then, so just wiggling stuff around to try to line stuff up. Get that bolt back in there, that 21 millimeter. Just gotta wiggle it up and down and pop her through. I'm gonna grab those 15mm bolts. See if we can line these up. I'm gonna have to do some pry in there. The pry bar. Get yourself a screwdriver, try a bigger one, get in one of them holes, and just kind of work the arm around till you're kind of lined up really good. Get your first bolt started. Now let's throw your second one in there. Probably now that that other one's in there, might have to use a, or just keep wiggling her. Wiggling it. With those loose and not bolted down, the 21mm socket, or I'm sorry, the 20mm nut for this bolt here, and the two 15mm nuts, I'm just gonna put them on loose. So I installed those nuts, the 21mm and the two 15mm nuts, just loose, finger tight, so that I can manipulate the A-arm up and down and get that ball joint in there. And the ball joint has definitely got some stiffness to it, which is really good. All I'm doing now is trying to get that ball joint in the right angle to go in, and it's kind of super stiff, so pushing out like that's kind of difficult. So I might put a socket on it to kind of be able to give you a little bit of pryability. Oh, we're almost there. Get yourself a dead blow. Be able to get her tapped up in there. You know, you might have to pull it down a little bit to get the castellated nut on there. And so you can see, that's kind of like what that nut looks like. Castellated. Like that. And supposedly that's like tightened to 89 inch-pounds. And you want to line up those castle slots with where your cotter pin goes through. And if you're at the 89 inch-pounds and you're not at the hole, just tighten it up a little bit further to make sure that you go a little tighter, if anything, and then put your cotter pin in. Don't ever loosen it to get your cotter pin in. But in reality, I mean, if you have the ability to get a torque device on here to get a inch-pounds measurement, and then like I think 165-degree measurement after that, go for it. I'm just gonna snug it up and then put that cotter pin in. So I guess like real world, how rusty that was, you couldn't get the cotter pin out because it was like corroded in the hole. Guys might have to, you know, just spin her out. This one came with you got new ball joint threads, new ball joint, new castellated nuts. So like I said, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. Get your wrench on there. So these new castellated nuts that are on here are not 18 like the ones we took off. It's more like a 19. I don't know if you'll have that same issue. I tighten that up to where I want it, hopefully 89 inch-pounds, and I'm gonna put that cotter pin in. And I got to where I wanted it. It was just a little bit not tight enough, so I just kept tightening it just a little bit more until I could get to the next slot. Get yourself the cotter pin, put it in there. You have to bend the tabs on the other side to keep it, you know, in place so it doesn't slide back out on you. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm actually gonna bend them and pull. I'm actually gonna pull this in more because it's kind of sticking out. Another thing before I forget, you definitely don't want to over tighten it because these steering knuckles will break. 89 inch-pounds is not a lot of, it's like less than 10 foot-pounds, you know what I mean? 9 foot-pounds. And it will crack and bust this lower knuckle hole if you go too tight. The 21 millimeter is like 85 foot-pounds. The other ones are the 15 millimeter bolts are 52 foot-pounds. So let me get that set up here. Sorry about that. I didn't do that 21 millimeter on camera for the impact, but I will torque it down as well. So it's just impacted in right here, as tight as the impact will take it. Now I'm doing an 18 millimeter wrench on top, 15 millimeter socket on the bottom. And these are actually kind of hard to get to. Get the torque wrench out here. And then just set your torque wrench to 52 foot-pounds for these small ones. And it kind of clicks right away. And then set your torque wrench up for 85 foot-pounds. When you're torquing stuff, it's good to go in little increments too, just a little bit at a time. Let's make sure you got a good torque. All right, so that's it. Ball joints on. tighten to 89 inch-pounds, plus you do like the 165-degree measurement wrench if you have one. If not, you know, follow all type of manufacturer recommended specifications, and everything else is torqued down for this A-arm. Gonna get the wheel back on. The wheel is 140 foot-pounds for the lug nuts. And you guys have an awesome one. Hopefully this helped you guys out. See you next time. Oh, and obviously, before I let you go there, I am gonna do the other side as well. Always do these in pairs, you know, suspension stuff. See you guys later.